The order was clear: harvest the energy oceans at any cost. But what happens when you meet the guardian of those seas? On a mission that could turn the tide of war, Earth pilot Jacob Holt encounters something more valuable than victory: a connection that transcends worlds. As the clock ticks down to annihilation, he must make an impossible choice between duty and destiny. Will their bond be strong enough to rewrite the fate of two civilizations? Subscribe now to uncover the truth behind the energy wars of Zenda. The stars were dying one by one as the war raged across the galaxy, their light dimming against the backdrop of humanity's desperate struggle for survival. Corporal Jacob Holt adjusted his harness in the cramped cockpit of the reconnaissance vessel Persis, watching the swirling violet clouds of Zenda's atmosphere rush past his viewport like cosmic watercolors bleeding into the void. Below him stretched endless oceans unlike anything Earth had ever seen, liquid energy pulsing with rhythmic waves that seemed almost alive, each crest and trough shimmering with an otherworldly luminescence that defied conventional physics. His orders burned in his mind like the white-hot core of a star: map the energy flows and identify extraction points. Victory for humanity hinged on this mission, though the thought of harvesting these magnificent seas filled him with an unease he couldn't quite articulate. The Varnath Collective had been pushing Earth forces back for years, their technological superiority matched only by their ruthless expansionist policies. These oceans held the key to turning the tide: pure, concentrated energy that could power weapon systems beyond current human capabilities. As Perseus descended through the upper atmosphere, Jacob's sensors picked up something unexpected: a massive structure rising from the luminous depths, its crystalline spires refracting light into dazzling spectra that danced across his instruments. Ancient and impossibly complex, it radiated power signatures that made his equipment fluctuate wildly, as if reality itself bent and warped around its presence. The readings suggested not just advanced technology, but something fundamentally different: a fusion of matter and energy that challenged everything humanity understood about physics and consciousness. Jacob's training kicked in automatically as he ran multiple diagnostic sequences, cross-referencing the data against known alien architectures and energy patterns. But nothing matched what he was seeing. The structure wasn't just ancient, it was alive, its surface crawling with energy tendrils that pulsed and shifted in patterns too complex to be random. Each tendril seemed to respond to some unknown stimulus deep within the ocean itself, creating an intricate dance of light and power that spoke of intelligence far beyond human comprehension. As he watched, mesmerized by the display, his sensors detected movement within the structure, not mechanical, but organic, as if the entire edifice breathed and lived in harmony with the energy seas surrounding it. The implications were staggering, and for the first time in his military career, Jacob felt the weight of being an explorer rather than just a soldier, standing on the precipice of discovery that could redefine humanity's place in the universe. Then came the voice, not through his comms, but directly in his mind, resonating with a clarity that bypassed all conventional communication channels. "You should not be here." Jacob spun around so quickly that his harness straps tightened painfully against his chest, heart hammering against his ribcage like a trapped bird desperate to escape. She hadn't been there a moment ago. Of that he was certain. The woman, if she could be called that, stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin shimmering with the same iridescent glow as the oceans below, shifting through hues that seemed to capture every color in existence while remaining somehow beyond them all. Her eyes held galaxies within them, infinite depths where stars were born and died in continuous cycles, shifting patterns that spoke of eons of knowledge accumulated and preserved. "I am Lariel," she said, her voice carrying the weight of countless generations, each syllable resonating with harmonics that vibrated through Jacob's very bones. Last custodian of Zenda's eternal seas. Jacob's military protocols screamed at him to maintain distance, to treat this as a potential threat, but something about her presence rooted him to the spot, making his carefully rehearsed security protocols feel suddenly inadequate and petty. She wore flowing robes that seemed woven from captured starlight, moving as if caught in unseen currents that existed only within the fabric of her garment. With each step closer to him, she left trails of light across the deck of Perseus, illuminations that didn't fade but instead sank into the metal, becoming part of the ship itself. The air around her crackled with contained energy, raising the hairs on Jacob's arms despite the climate-controlled environment of the vessel. Her movements were both graceful and deliberate, each gesture carrying meaning beyond simple motion, as if she communicated through dance as much as through words. When she raised her hand, tiny motes of light gathered around her fingers, forming intricate patterns that seemed to represent concepts far beyond human language. Through the viewport behind her, the liquid energy began forming shapes, creatures both beautiful and terrible, rising from the depths only to dissolve back into the whole, their forms suggesting both predator and prey, creation and destruction, existing simultaneously in perfect balance. The sight overwhelmed Jacob's senses, forcing him to question everything he thought he knew about life, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. L'Ariel moved closer still, each step leaving not just trails of light but subtle changes in the ship's very structure. The metal beneath her feet rippled slightly, as if acknowledging her presence, while the control panels flickered with colors they'd never displayed before. Jacob swallowed hard, trying desperately to reconcile his mission parameters with the being before him. "Your kind seeks to drain our essence," she stated, gesturing toward the readouts on Jacob's console with a wave of her hand that sent ripples through the holographic displays without actually touching them. "To tear apart what we have protected for millennia." Her words carried the weight of prophecy, each syllable resonating through the cabin with an authority that transcended mere speech. Jacob's tactical training warred with his growing understanding of the situation. "We're fighting for survival," he managed to say, his voice steadier than he expected despite the turmoil inside. "The collective would do far worse if they reached your world first." She tilted her head in consideration, her galaxy-filled eyes seeming to look straight through him, beyond him, into the very core of his being. "And so you justify destruction with destruction?" The question hung in the air like a physical presence, challenging everything he'd been taught about warfare and necessity. She raised her hand again, and suddenly Jacob felt the ship shudder as energy surged through its systems in ways that should have been impossible. Lights dimmed and brightened in sequence, creating patterns that matched the rhythms of the energy ocean below. "Your machines cannot comprehend what they seek to exploit," she continued, her voice taking on a melodic quality that seemed to harmonize with the ship's vibrations. "These oceans are consciousness itself, memories of billions of lives interwoven with the fundamental forces of existence." Through the viewport, the ocean's surface transformed before his eyes. The liquid energy formed complex geometric patterns that shifted and evolved faster than human perception could fully process, each shape containing within it countless subpatterns that told stories older than stars. Creatures emerged from the depths, some resembling Earth's marine life, but composed entirely of pure energy, others so alien that Jacob's mind struggled to form coherent images of them. They rose gracefully, performed intricate dances that seemed to communicate vast amounts of information, then dissolved back into the whole, leaving behind echoes of their presence that lingered in the water like whispers. The sheer scale of what he was witnessing threatened to overwhelm him. This wasn't just an ocean of energy, but a living library of consciousness, a repository of experiences stretching back through eons of evolution and cultural development. Every wave carried the weight of history, every current bore the memories of civilizations that had risen and fallen, their knowledge preserved not in books or databases, but in the very fabric of reality itself. Jacob's training manual had precisely 0 entries about how to handle ancient alien princesses who could apparently interface directly with spacecraft systems and sentient energy oceans. His tactical data continued scrolling across the screens, cold numbers and vectors that quantified what they were witnessing in terms of potential weapon yield and strategic value. According to the readouts, a single cubic kilometer of this energy ocean contained enough power to supply Earth's entire military-industrial complex for a decade. The figures were staggering, representing salvation for billions of humans caught in the crossfire of an unwinnable war. But Lariel's words planted seeds of doubt that took root deep within his consciousness, spreading their roots through every fiber of his being. If we don't use this resource, he argued, struggling to maintain his professional detachment, billions will die. My people will be exterminated. She regarded him with an expression that was neither pity nor judgment, but something deeper and more complex, perhaps understanding, perhaps resignation. And what of my people? She countered, her voice carrying the weight of ages. What of the trillions of consciousnesses that form these seas? Would you sacrifice them all for your war? The ship rocked again as another surge of energy passed through its hull, more powerful this time, causing warning lights to flash across the control panel. Jacob realized with growing unease that she wasn't threatening him, she was testing his resolve, probing the boundaries of his commitment to his mission. Outside, the ocean surface had calmed to mirror-like stillness, perfectly reflecting both their forms. For a moment, he saw himself through her eyes, a small, frightened creature contemplating the destruction of a world he barely understood. The reflection showed not just his physical form but his doubts, his fears, his hopes, laid bare by the ocean surface in a way that no psychological evaluation ever could. He watched as his image wavered, distorted by ripples that seemed to originate from within rather than without, revealing layers of his psyche he hadn't even acknowledged to himself. The tactical data on his screens began to blur and shift, overlaying itself with images from the ocean, memories of Zendian civilizations, their triumphs and tragedies, their art and science, their understanding of existence that made human achievements seem like child's play. Each number representing potential weapon yield now carried with it visions of the lives it would destroy, the histories it would erase, the consciousness it would consume. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders with crushing force, making him question whether he had the right to make such decisions, whether anyone did. Time lost all meaning as Lariel shared glimpses of Zenda's history, each memory more profound than the last. Jacob witnessed civilizations rising and falling in majestic cycles, their knowledge and experiences merging seamlessly with the energy oceans upon their passing. He saw how her people had evolved symbiotically with their world, learning to shape and guide the flow of collective consciousness not through domination but through harmony. Each wave carried stories that span millennia, each current bore memories stretching back millions of years to times before Earth had even cooled from its molten birth. Entire epochs played out before his eyes, the first tentative steps of Zendian life from primordial energy pools, the discovery of self-awareness within the ocean's currents, the development of culture and technology that enhanced rather than exploited their environment. He watched as Zendian society learned to preserve individuality within unity, maintaining personal identity while contributing to the greater whole, creating a civilization where death wasn't an end but a transformation, where each being's essence enriched the collective consciousness rather than being lost forever. "We are not separate from our world," Lariel explained, her form shimmering with reflected light that seemed to contain fragments of every memory she shared. "We are its guardians, its memory keepers, its evolutionary partners." Through their connection, Jacob experienced the Zendian understanding of existence, not as linear progression but as infinite recursion, where every action created ripples that influenced past, present, and future simultaneously. The concept shattered his conventional notions of causality and time, forcing him to perceive reality in entirely new dimensions. He saw how each Zendian life contributed to the ocean song, adding unique notes to a symphony that had been playing since before stars ignited in the void. Their technology wasn't built upon but grown from the energy seas, organic extensions of natural processes rather than artificial constructs imposed upon them. Even their conflicts and failures became part of the ocean's wisdom, teaching future generations through experience rather than dogma. Through the viewport, the liquid energy responded to their connection, forming intricate mandalas of light that represented the web of relationships binding all Zendian life together. Each pattern contained micropatterns within, fractal representations of individual consciousness within the greater whole, demonstrating how unity didn't require uniformity, but celebrated diversity as strength. The realization struck Jacob with devastating clarity. Humanity's approach to the Zendian oceans wasn't just exploitation, it was cultural genocide on a scale beyond comprehension, the erasure of billions of years of evolution and understanding reduced to mere fuel for weapons. The transmission from command grew insistent, demanding confirmation of extraction coordinates with increasing urgency. Jacob's fingers hovered over the controls, sweat beading on his forehead as he wrestled with choices that felt increasingly impossible. Lariel watched him silently, reading truths in his hesitation that even he hadn't fully acknowledged: the conflict between duty and morality, between survival and destruction, between short-term gain and long-term consequences. "Your leaders do not understand what they ask of you," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of tragic inevitability. "They see only power, not purpose. Only resources, not relationships. Only solutions, not consequences." Outside, the energy ocean responded to her distress, colors shifting rapidly from calming blues through warning reds to desperate violets, each hue carrying emotional content that resonated through the ship's hull like a mournful symphony. Jacob's comm system crackled again, louder this time, breaking the spell of ancient memories and harsh realities. Command was no longer requesting updates, they were demanding immediate action, threatening court-martial if he failed to comply. His military training screamed at him to follow orders, to prioritize the survival of his species above all else. Yet every instinct honed by years of service now rebelled against that conditioning, recognizing in Lariel's presence and the ocean's consciousness something far more valuable than mere survival: the possibility of true understanding, of growth beyond fear and scarcity. "There has to be another way," he whispered, more to himself than to her, the words feeling inadequate against the magnitude of the situation. Lariel's eyes brightened with something between hope and sorrow, their galactic depths swirling with possibilities both promising and perilous. "There always is," she replied, placing a hand on the console beside him. The contact sent a cascade of images through his mind. Not just possibilities but probabilities, not just choices but consequences, not just actions but their ripples through time and space. He saw alternate futures branching infinitely, each decision point creating new realities where humanity either destroyed or transformed itself. Some paths led to quick victory followed by inevitable extinction as knowledge was lost and mistakes repeated. Others showed painful but ultimately redemptive journeys toward genuine understanding and cooperation. Through it all, Lariel's presence remained constant, her consciousness interfacing with his in ways that transcended simple telepathy, sharing not just information but perspective, not just facts but wisdom. "But it requires courage beyond orders," she concluded, her voice firm despite the sadness in her eyes. "Courage to choose understanding over fear, to embrace complexity rather than simplicity, to trust in growth rather than cling to survival at any cost." As Jacob wrestled with his decision, torn between duty and understanding, Perseus's sensors detected approaching vessels, dozens of them, emerging from hyperspace like dark thunderclouds gathering on the horizon of space-time. The collective had found them, their predatory ships spreading across the void with military precision that spoke of centuries of conquest. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship, their shrill cries cutting through the tense atmosphere like knives. Lariel's expression hardened, her galaxy-filled eyes narrowing with determination. "They will not hesitate to take what they want," she stated, moving purposefully to the viewport. Raising both hands, she began channeling the ocean's power in ways that made Jacob's instruments go haywire, their readings spiking off the charts as energy levels exceeded anything recorded in human science. The ocean responded instantly, sending columns of pure energy skyward with such force that they bent light itself, creating auroras that danced across the darkness of space. Jacob watched in awe as the liquid formed barriers between the attacking fleet and the planet, not solid shields but living walls of consciousness that pulsed with protective intent. "This isn't defense," he realized aloud, his voice barely audible over the ship's alarms. "You're protecting me." Her smile held infinite sadness, tempered by resolve. "I'm protecting us all. Your people's fear and greed brought you here, but perhaps through you, They can learn a different path. The ship shook violently as a stray blast broke through the energy shields, sending sparks flying from control panels and emergency lights flashing red throughout the cabin. In that instant, Jacob made his choice. He powered down the mapping systems with deliberate slowness, each button press feeling like a betrayal of his training, yet a vindication of his humanity. Turning to face Lariel, he met her gaze with newfound determination. "Tell me how to help," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. Her eyes widened slightly in surprise, then softened with gratitude as she extended her hand. When their palms touched, a surge of energy passed between them, linking their consciousnesses in ways that transcended simple understanding. Through this connection, Jacob perceived the full scope of what they faced, not just a military engagement, but a philosophical battle, not merely a fight for resources, but a struggle for the soul of two civilizations. Together, they worked in perfect harmony, human technology interfacing with Zendian energy through their combined will, creating defenses that neither could have imagined alone. The ocean responded to their unity, its waves forming intricate patterns that resonated with both mechanical frequencies and psychic wavelengths, creating a hybrid shield that deflected attacks while broadcasting messages of peace and understanding. Their alliance forged in chaos became something far greater than either had anticipated. Lariel guided Jacob through ancient protocols, teaching him to interface with the ocean's consciousness in ways that rewrote his understanding of reality itself. Where moments ago he'd seen only raw power ready to be harvested, now he perceived infinite patterns, symphonies of existence where each note represented lives lived, lessons learned, wisdom gained. The collective's attacks intensified, their weapons carving through the energy barriers with terrifying efficiency. Yet, each strike revealed more about their true nature. "They fear what they cannot control," Lariel urged, placing her hands on the console and flooding Jacob's mind with insights. The ocean responded, sending waves of pure information that exposed the attacker's motivations, not just conquest but consumption, not merely expansion but annihilation of anything that resisted categorization or domination. Outside, the energy ocean transformed into a living battlefield, its currents weaving defensive patterns that evolved faster than enemy targeting systems could adapt. Through their connection, Jacob felt the ocean's pain, its determination to protect its children manifesting as powerful currents that redirected incoming fire back toward its source. "Your people's fear created the collective," Lariel explained, her voice carrying the weight of tragic inevitability. "Their refusal to understand difference, their insistence on conformity, their worship of control above all else." She demonstrated by showing him through their link, not telling but experiencing, how the collective had begun as a human splinter group seeking order through oppression, how their ideology had spread like a virus through vulnerable species until it became the multi-species empire threatening them now. The realization hit Jacob with devastating clarity. They weren't fighting an alien enemy, but a perversion of human nature, a dark reflection of everything his species had feared becoming. When a particularly powerful blast rocked the ship, throwing them both to the deck, Jacob understood that this battle wasn't just about winning or losing, surviving or perishing. It was about choosing what kind of future they wanted to create, one defined by fear and control, or one shaped by understanding and cooperation. As he helped Lariel rise, their eyes met with shared purpose, their combined will interfacing with the ocean to create something entirely new, a form of communication that transcended species barriers, technological limitations, and ideological divides. The battle entered its critical phase as the remaining collective ships launched boarding parties, their assault craft slicing through the energy barriers with precision that spoke of centuries of combat experience. Lariel's expression hardened, her galaxy-filled eyes narrowing with focused intensity. "They fear what they cannot control," she repeated, moving to the viewport with purposeful grace. Raising both hands, she began channeling the ocean's power in ways that made Jacob's instruments go haywire, their readings spiking off the charts as energy levels exceeded anything recorded in human science. The ocean responded instantly, sending columns of pure energy skyward with such force that they bent light itself, creating auroras that danced across the darkness of space. Jacob watched in awe as the liquid formed barriers between the attacking fleet and the planet, not solid shields, but living walls of consciousness that pulsed with protective intent. This isn't defense, he realized aloud, his voice barely audible over the ship's alarms. You're protecting me. Her smile held infinite sadness, tempered by resolve. I'm protecting us all. Your people's fear and greed brought you here, but perhaps through you, they can learn a different path. The ship shook violently as a stray blast broke through the energy shields, sending sparks flying from control panels and emergency lights flashing red throughout the cabin. In that instant, Jacob made his choice. He powered down the mapping systems with deliberate slowness, each button press feeling like a betrayal of his training, yet a vindication of his humanity. Turning to face Lariel, he met her gaze with newfound determination. Tell me how to help, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. Her eyes widened slightly in surprise, then softened with gratitude as she extended her hand. When their palms touched, a surge of energy passed between them, linking their consciousnesses in ways that transcended simple understanding. Through this connection, Jacob perceived the full scope of what they faced, not just a military engagement, but a philosophical battle. Not merely a fight for resources, but a struggle for the soul of two civilizations. Together, they worked in perfect harmony, human technology interfacing with Zendian energy through their combined will, creating defenses that neither could have imagined alone. The ocean responded to their unity, its waves forming intricate patterns that resonated with both mechanical frequencies and psychic wavelengths, creating a hybrid shield that deflected attacks while broadcasting messages of peace and understanding. As dawn broke over Zenda's horizon, painting the energy oceans in spectacular hues that defied human artistic imagination, Jacob found himself thinking of home differently. Through Lariel's memories, he'd experienced thousands of Zendian sunrises, each one unique yet part of an endless cycle of renewal and transformation. Their combined efforts had repelled the main attack force, but smaller skirmishes continued to erupt across the system as scattered collective units attempted to regroup and retaliate. The most immediate threat, however, came from the ancient spires themselves, the Nexus chamber that held the memories of Lariel's entire people. Her distress was palpable, vibrating through their connection with an intensity that made his teeth ache. That place holds the memories of my entire people, she confessed, her voice carrying the weight of impending loss. Every Zendian who ever lived, every lesson learned, every moment of joy and sorrow, all preserved within its crystalline structure. If they reach it. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Jacob activated Perseus's last resort, a prototype EMP weapon designed to disable rather than destroy, its casing cool beneath his fingers despite the heat of battle raging outside. Cover me, he said, suiting up for a spacewalk that would likely be his last. Her protest died on her lips as she saw the determination in his eyes, the set of his jaw that spoke of commitment beyond fear. Together, he repeated firmly, checking the seals on his suit one final time. The ocean surged in response, its energy forming protective currents around him as he ventured outside, each step away from the ship carrying the weight of countless expectations and hopes. Through his helmet's visor, he watched as Lariel's form merged with the spire's defenses, her consciousness becoming one with the ancient structure's protective mechanisms. Energy tendrils wrapped around her like living cables, connecting her to the very heart of Zendian heritage. The collective forces were already attempting to hack the system, their crude technology tearing at the delicate fabric of memories with alarming speed. Jacob deployed the EMP device while Lariel reinforced the chamber's shields with her own energy, their combined efforts creating a feedback loop that illuminated the entire region with searing light. The resulting spectacle of energy and sound overwhelmed the invaders' senses, their screams echoing through space as their minds struggled to process the flood of Zendian memories forced upon them. As the enemy retreated, their mental defenses shattered by the psychic backlash, Jacob understood the true nature of the war. It wasn't about territory or resources. It was about understanding versus exploitation, about respecting consciousness rather than consuming it, about choosing growth over dominance. With the immediate threat neutralized, Jacob and Lariel focused on healing the Nexus, their movements synchronized through their deepening connection. The damage was extensive, centuries of memories corrupted, whole epochs of Zendian history lost to the collective's invasive attempts at control. As they worked, their bond transcended simple cooperation, becoming something far more profound. Lariel showed Jacob how to channel Earth's technological knowledge through Zendian energy patterns, creating solutions neither civilization could have developed alone. They discovered that damaged memories could be reconstructed through careful resonance matching, using mathematical algorithms derived from both human computer science and Zendian harmonic theory. The process was painstaking, requiring absolute focus and perfect synchronization between their minds. Each restored memory fragment revealed more about Zendian society, their arts, sciences, philosophies, and spiritual practices, all interconnected through the ocean's consciousness. Through their shared efforts, they developed new techniques for preserving and protecting consciousness, methods that could revolutionize how both species approached existence itself. News of their success spread quickly through quantum communication channels, not just among humans and Zendians, but to other species caught in the crossfire of the war. Representatives from previously neutral worlds began arriving, drawn by the possibility of peace through understanding rather than conquest. Earth Command contacted Jacob with new orders, establish diplomatic relations, and share their discoveries. For the first time in his military career, he followed an order without hesitation, recognizing its importance not just for immediate survival but for long-term coexistence. The Nexus Chamber transformed into a living archive, its crystalline structure adapting to store not just Zendian history but contributions from every participating species. Scientists from across the galaxy worked side by side, their differences becoming strengths rather than obstacles. Through Lariel's guidance, they learned to interface with the ocean's consciousness respectfully, gaining insights that challenged and expanded their understanding of reality itself. The experience changed everyone involved, creating bonds that transcended species barriers and ideological divides, proving that true progress comes not from domination but from willing cooperation. The diplomatic summit took place aboard Perseus, transformed through a combination of human engineering and Zendian energy into a floating palace of light that defied conventional architecture. Leaders who had spent lifetimes regarding each other as enemies found themselves sharing visions of their homeworlds, experiencing each other's histories through the Nexus in ways that made conflict seem not just unnecessary but absurd. Lariel served as guide and interpreter, her presence bridging gaps that had seemed unbridgeable, her consciousness facilitating understanding between species whose biology and psychology differed radically. The collective's remaining forces withdrew, their leadership unable to justify continued aggression against such unprecedented unity. Through it all, Jacob and Lariel grew closer, their bond becoming the foundation for a new kind of relationship between species, one based not on treaties or trade agreements, but on genuine understanding and mutual respect. They developed protocols for safe interaction with the energy oceans, creating frameworks that allowed for research and development without exploitation or harm. Human scientists learned to work with Zendian energy flows rather than against them, developing technologies that enhanced rather than exploited. Medical advances emerged from studying how Zendian consciousness interacted with physical reality, leading to breakthroughs in both species' understanding of life and health. Environmental applications appeared as researchers discovered how to apply Zendian principles of harmony to ecosystem management, creating sustainable solutions to problems that had seemed insurmountable. Through their connection, Jacob and Lariel became living examples of successful interspecies cooperation, their relationship inspiring similar partnerships across species lines. They proved that understanding could overcome even the deepest divides, that differences could become strengths rather than weaknesses, that cooperation yielded greater strength than competition. As they prepared to depart on a mission of exploration together, Jacob realized he'd found something more valuable than victory, a future worth fighting for, not through weapons but through wisdom, not through conquest but through connection. Months later, as the first joint human-Zendian research station took shape above the energy oceans, its structure blending advanced human materials science with Zendian energy manipulation in ways that created architecture both functional and beautiful, Jacob found himself reflecting on how far they'd come. The war had ended not with a decisive victory, but with a fundamental shift in perspective that affected every aspect of galactic society. Earth flourished under the new paradigm, its people learning that cooperation yielded greater strength than competition, that understanding created more opportunities than exploitation, that growth came not from domination but from willing exchange. Lariel's people began venturing beyond their world, bringing their unique understanding to other civilizations, sharing their wisdom while remaining respectful of others' differences. The ocean itself seemed to celebrate these developments, its patterns more vibrant than ever, its currents carrying messages of hope and possibility across parsecs of space. Jacob received numerous commendations, but none meant more to him than Lariel's quiet acknowledgement of his growth from soldier to diplomat, from conqueror to collaborator, from stranger to partner. They stood together on the observation deck, watching as another species arrived to join the growing alliance, their ship's arrival heralded by energy displays that spoke of welcome rather than warning. "We've only begun," she said, taking his hand in hers, their touch sparking connections that transcended simple physical contact. "The real journey starts now." Through their link, he felt the truth of her words, not just as promise but as probability, as potential, as purpose. The energy ocean below responded, its waves forming patterns that predicted futures where cooperation created possibilities beyond imagination, where understanding generated solutions beyond current comprehension, where connection fostered growth beyond previous limitations. Together, they had proven that peace wasn't just the absence of conflict but the presence of purpose, that progress wasn't measured in conquests but in connections, that survival wasn't about dominance but about development. As they watched the new arrivals dock, their ship's energy signature harmonizing with the ocean song, Jacob understood that they had created something truly revolutionary, a framework for interspecies relationships based on mutual respect and genuine understanding, a model for galactic cooperation that could transform not just their immediate situation but the entire trajectory of civilized development across the stars. From their vantage point high above Zenda, where the energy oceans stretched endlessly in every direction, their patterns telling stories older than stars while writing new chapters with each passing moment, Jacob and Lariel watched the birth of a new galactic community. Ships from dozens of worlds orbited in peaceful formation, their lights reflecting in the energy oceans below like constellations rearranged by cosmic hands. The Nexus Chamber had become a living archive, preserving not just Zendian history but contributions from every participating species, each memory stored respectfully within its own harmonic frequency while remaining accessible to those willing to learn. Earth flourished under the new paradigm, its people learning that cooperation yielded greater strength than competition, that understanding created more opportunities than exploitation, that growth came not from domination but from willing exchange. The collective's remnants had disbanded, their members integrating into the emerging society, their skills and perspectives adding to rather than threatening the growing tapestry of galactic civilization. Through it all, Jacob and Lariel's bond inspired similar partnerships across species lines, proving that understanding could overcome even the deepest divides, that differences could become strengths rather than weaknesses, that cooperation yielded greater strength than competition. Their relationship became the template for interspecies collaboration, demonstrating how genuine connection could transcend biological and cultural barriers to create something entirely new yet respectfully preserving each participant's unique identity. As they prepared for their next mission, exploring uncharted sectors of space together, seeking other civilizations who might contribute to or benefit from this new understanding, Jacob realized that their greatest achievement wasn't ending the war or establishing peace, but creating a framework for continuous growth and learning. The energy ocean below pulsed with approval, its waves forming patterns that predicted futures where cooperation created possibilities beyond imagination, where understanding generated solutions beyond current comprehension, where connection fostered growth beyond previous limitations. Standing on the threshold of departure, preparing to venture into the unknown with Lariel at his side, Jacob reflected on how completely their journey had transformed not just their own lives, but the trajectory of galactic civilization itself. The research station orbiting Zenda had become more than just a scientific outpost. It was a living testament to what could be achieved when species chose understanding over exploitation, cooperation over competition, growth over domination. Its halls buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of worlds worked side by side, their differences becoming strengths rather than obstacles, their unique perspectives enriching rather than complicating their shared goals. The energy ocean below responded to their presence, its patterns evolving in ways that suggested conscious approval, its currents carrying messages of hope and possibility across light years of space. Through their connection, Jacob and Lariel had created something truly revolutionary, a framework for interspecies relationships based on mutual respect and genuine understanding, a model for galactic cooperation that could transform not just their immediate situation but the entire trajectory of civilized development across the stars. As they boarded their exploration vessel, specially designed to combine human and Zendian technologies in ways that maximize their respective strengths while respecting their fundamental differences, Jacob understood that they had achieved something far greater than mere peace. They had established a new paradigm for existence itself. The energy ocean's farewell display illuminated the entire system, its patterns telling stories of gratitude and anticipation, of appreciation for what had been accomplished and excitement for what might come next. Remember to subscribe for more amazing sci-fi adventures that push the boundaries of imagination and explore the infinite possibilities of the universe.